Welcome back to the OSM channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about tire inflators. Specifically, the main thing I want to cover in today's video is the replacement of the current or existing whip or hose attached to your tire inflator. I really want to talk about the thread sizes because it took me a little while to figure all this out. So commonly, the thread sizes where the connection is made between the hose to the tire inflator is not normally NPT. It's actually usually UNF, Unified National Fine. So I'm going to show you how I sized this fitting and how I found a replacement chuck, and it's actually an upgrade. After we do the replacement, I want to talk about what I believe is the safest tire inflator on the market and why. So when it comes to tire inflators, I would say that one of the best brands of tire inflators out there on the market is Milton. Milton is a tried and true name, USA made. What I have here is not a Milton. This is a cheap Chinese tire inflator. This one retails for about $22. A very similar Milton tire inflator, very similar to this one, would be the S-504. And just to give you an idea, the Milton retails for about $43. So what we have here, we have our tire inflator. So we have the valve. There is a pressure gauge that pops up when we have pressure fed from the tire back into the gauge. Additionally, we have our hose or our whip. In this case, this one has failed right here. This is a rubber whip, which I'm going to be upgrading to a stainless steel braided whip. But the other thing I want to talk about is the chuck. And of course, we're going to talk about the threads here momentarily. But what I hate about this tire inflator, this chuck is called a straight chuck, meaning in order for this to engage with the valve stem, you have to apply steady pressure on that valve stem. What I hate about straight chucks is it forces you to keep your body dangerously close to that tire. And tires can explode. I get very leery about being that close to a tire when the pressures, start to exceed 60 pounds, which is very common when you start getting into larger, heavy-duty, LT tires, 8, 10-ply tires. A standard car tire, I don't really mind being that close, but once you get over 60 PSI, it's not a good idea to have a straight chuck on your tire inflator. A much better option would be to have a screw-on chuck or a clip-on chuck like this. And here the replacement hose has a clip-on chuck. So that way I can clip this onto the valve stem, and while I'm inflating the tire, I can have my body well away from the tire. In this case, this whip, this replacement whip, I think is 16 inches, where the original one is, 12 inches. So this is definitely an upgrade. Now let's talk about the threads. So the threaded connection between the whip to the chuck itself, you think, well, it's probably NPT, which NPT, National Pipe Thread, the threads are tapered. In this case, this is not an NPT connection. This is actually a 3/8-24 UNF connection. Unified National Fine, and the threads are characterized by them being straight, fine-pitched threads. And I verified that this was 3/8-24 UNF by taking my thread checker. I'm going to find the right thread here. So this thread checker right here, this is a 3/8-24. And if I try and jive the threads together, they are a perfect match, which indicates to me this is definitely a 3/8-24 UNF threaded connection. And this also seals not by way of the threads, but by way of this O-ring on the end of this. So here's my replacement. Again, this is an upgrade in two ways. First, it's braided stainless steel, so you're not going to have the rubber fail, hopefully. This could still absolutely fail, but I just think braided stainless is better. And additionally, we have the clip-on chuck. We no longer have that straight chuck. And again, this means we can stand well away from the tire. In case that tire fails, it might just save our life. So we'll just thread this in here. Now to snug this nut down and create a good seal between the O-ring face and the tire inflator valve itself, unfortunately I don't have a slim adjustable wrench, so I'm just going to use a pair of trusty old needle nose vice grips. Snug that down, and that is good to go. By the way, this replacement whip, $17. Well, I mentioned it earlier, folks. Anytime I fill up a tire that has to get more than, 40 PSI pressure in it, I get very leery. It makes me very uncomfortable. And again, the problem with a traditional straight head chuck is you would have to push that chuck right on the valve stem. You'd be right up against that tire, and if that tire lets go, it might be lights out. It might really screw up your life. So at the very least, you know, always have safety glasses and hearing protection on in case it lets go. You might just have your hearing at the end of the day and your eyesight. But a major upgrade from a straight chuck, again, would be a clip-on chuck or a screw-on chuck. So with this clip-on chuck, let's give it a test here. So with this clip-on chuck, I can now see my tire pressure on this gauge. And what's great is if I'm feeling uneasy about filling up the tire, I can now stand off to the side and inflate that tire. Because if this thing lets go, you know, most of the blast, I think, would come out this way. So by standing off to the side, it's a lot safer. So this replacement whip is definitely an upgrade. But mind you, this whip is only about 16 inches. Milton actually makes a 4 or 5 foot long whip on the end of one of their tire inflators. I'm going to share that part number with you now. If I had plenty of disposable income and I had $70 to spend on a tire inflator, here's what I'd really recommend. What I'd really recommend and like to upgrade to in the future is the Milton 518 tire inflator. Featuring an analog gauge, this comes with 5 feet of hose and a clip-on chuck. Which, after using this clip-on chuck, I definitely see the benefit of a thread-on chuck that might be a little bit superior compared to a clip-on. You'll have to let me know what your experience is. But with the Milton 518, again, retails for $70. If you have a 5 foot long whip or hose, I just see that as such a benefit, because now you can be filling a tire and stand, you know, with an arm extension 6, perhaps 7 feet away from that thing. So if that thing lets go, I mean, you're a little bit further away from that blast of energy. So I think that's about all I have to say on tire chucks for today. I will leave links for the replacement whip I used today, as well as the Milton 518, because that's what I really recommend if you want to be as safe as possible when it comes to filling up tires. Anyway, share your thoughts. I'd like to hear what you have to say in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and as always, I will catch you on the next one.